All right, you really threw us a curveball this time. Excerpts from Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged.
Oh, yeah, this one's a doozy.
I've heard it's, well, intense.
Definitely a challenging read, no doubt.
Mm.
But look, Atlas Shrugged isn't just some story, you know? It throws you headfirst into this world, this society that's like on the verge of collapsing. And it's all because all the brains, the big thinkers who built the industries, are just vanishing.
By vanishing, poof, just gone.
Gone. That's the big mystery, right at the heart of the story. We follow Dagny Taggart. She's this incredible railroad executive trying to keep her company afloat. But she's also got to figure out where everyone's disappearing to. Like, is she trying to save the whole world while she's at it?
Okay, I'm already hooked.
Yeah.
And I'm probably a little stressed out for Dagny. But this disappearing act, it's more than just a mystery, right? Like, there's got to be some serious philosophy going on here.
Oh, absolutely. Rand, she's not messing around. She throws down this challenge. Individualism versus collectivism makes you think. What happens when society starts punishing achievement instead of rewarding it?
Ooh, that's a question we're still trying to answer today, right? I can already see why you said this would be a wild ride. So, where do we even begin to unpack Atlas Shrugged?
Well, let's start with Dagny Taggart. She's like the embodiment of the relentless spirit that Rand's all about. She's brilliant, obviously, but she's also like a force of nature, determined to keep her railroad, Taggart Transcontinental, running no matter what.
Okay, so I'm picturing her with a wrench in one hand and like a blueprint in the other, just staring down any obstacle.
Yeah, pretty much. Remember that part where she finds out Ellis Wyatt's oil fields are on fire?
Yeah, that was intense.
Well, most people would freak out, right? But Dagny, she laughs. God bless you, Ellis, whatever you're doing, she says.
I mean, wow. Is that like admiration for him being so defiant? Or is Rand suggesting you got to burn it all down to start over?
See, that's what makes Rand's characters so interesting. They're complex, they challenge you. Dagny, she's not warm and fuzzy. She's driven by this, like, unwavering belief in individual achievement.
And it kind of makes you wonder, how far would you go to reach your goals? I'm getting hooked already. But we can't forget about the other half of this whole thing. Those disappearing industrialists. Any connection between Dagny's, intense drive and those vanishing acts.
That's what makes the story so gripping. As Dagny digs deeper, she finds clues, and they suggest these disappearances aren't just random. It's like there's this shadowy figure orchestrating everything, and they call him John Galt.
John Galt. Okay, that name's already sending chills down my spine. Is he like some evil mastermind?
Not necessarily. Think of him more like a symbol of rebellion against a system that seems rigged, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the people who create, the innovators. Remember that abandoned factory Dagny finds? The one with that crazy motor?
Yeah.
It's a clue. It's like a whisper from someone who decided, this world doesn't value my talent, so I'm out.
So those disappearances, it's a strike of the mind, like they call it in the book.
Exactly. It's like the smartest people in the country are saying, we're done playing your game. And it leaves everyone else in a panic, wondering what happens when the engine that drives society just quits.
Whoa. That's a heavy thought. And probably hits a little too close to home for some of us, right? Ever felt like you were banging your head against the wall?
Yeah.
Like no matter how hard you try, the system's working against you.
That's what these industrialists are facing, and on a massive scale.
It's scary. And that brings us back to the core of Rand's philosophy, right? That clash between individualism and collectivism.
Right. It's like she's asking, what happens when we start prioritizing need over ability, when trying to level the playing field actually ends up, squashing innovation?
So the looters, as Rand calls them, they benefit from this whole system, right? The ones who prioritize taking instead of making.
Right.
Are they the villains, though? Or are they just products of a system that rewards that kind of behavior?
See, that's the genius of Atlas Shrugged. It doesn't hand you easy answers, makes you look at the gray areas, consider the motivations of characters like Hank Rearden.
Hank Rearden. He's the one who invented Rearden metal, right? That revolutionary alloy that everyone wants to control.
Yes. He's a perfect example of someone caught in the middle. This brilliant inventor, a creator, constantly battling government regulations, public resentment, even though his invention is crucial for their survival.
Wait, so they resent him for being successful? For creating something that makes their lives better?
That's exactly Rand's point. It's like, what happens when success itself becomes the problem? When the focus shifts from celebrating achievement to demanding those who achieve give back simply because they can.
Sounds like she's warning us about the dangers of envy and entitlement. And I'm starting to see why this book is still so relevant today. Because who hasn't encountered those looters in one form or another? The people who instead of creating something themselves, try to tear down those who do.
It's a timeless problem, and Rand tackles it head on. But Atlas Shrugged isn't just about economics and politics, you know? It's about the moral weight of the choices we make.
Okay, break that down for me. What kind of choices are we talking about?
Think about Dagny. She's constantly facing these choices that test her beliefs. Does she compromise her principles to save her company, give in to the demands of the looters, or does she stand firm even if it means watching everything fall apart?
Man, that's a lot of pressure. No wonder she seems so intense. But are we supposed to admire that unwavering stance, even when it seems like it hurts other people? I can see why this book sparks so much debate.
And that's why we're here, to dive into those debates. Because through these choices, Rand forces us to confront our own values. What would we do in Dagny's shoes?
This is making me rethink my own definition of success, Is it just about individual achievement, no matter the cost? Or is there a way to balance personal ambition and social responsibility?
That's the question Rand wants us to grapple with, and we see it play out not just with Dagny, but with all the characters.
I'm officially hooked. We've barely scratched the surface. I'm already feeling the weight of these ideas.
Oh, we're just getting started. There's so much more to uncover in Atlas Shrugged, like the chilling way it portrays societal collapse and those complex relationships between Dagny, Hank Rearden, and the enigmatic John Galt.
Okay, I'm ready for the next layer. Let's dive deeper and see where this takes us. All right, I'm still kind of reeling from that last talk about the strike of the mind and that whole clash between individualism and collectivism. But you mentioned Atlas Shrugged isn't just about economics and politics. There's this whole other layer, right? Moral choices and personal responsibility woven in. So how does that fit into the picture?
Well, remember those disappearing industrialists we were talking about? They didn't just, vanish into thin air. They went off the grid, create their own little society hidden away from all the chaos. They call it the Valley of the Mind.
The Valley of the Mind. Sounds kind of like something out of a utopia novel. Are they building like a perfect society based on reason and individual freedom?
Kinda, yeah. It's a community where people are judged by their ability and how much they're willing to contribute, not by their need. It's a huge contrast to that decaying world outside where those looters are desperately trying to hold on to control.
Okay, but hold on. Isn't there something kind of selfish about ditching the rest of the world to, fend for itself? I get that they're frustrated, but shouldn't they be trying to fix the system instead of running away from it?
That's the thing. That's exactly what Dagny's struggling with as she learns more about this valley. She's drawn to their principles, the way they emphasize individual achievement, but she also feels responsible for the people who are suffering out there.
So it's not just a simple good guys versus bad guys kind of thing.
Yeah.
There are some moral dilemmas that make you really think.
Exactly. And that's what makes the book so good. You've got characters like Hugh Axton. He was a philosophy professor, a big shot. But he gave it all up to pursue real intellectual freedom in this valley. So is he being selfish, or is he taking a stand against a system that stifles independent thought?
It sounds like he's looking out for himself, but also making a statement, right? About individual choice and living a life that actually aligns with your values. I can see why that would be tempting, especially in a world where everyone's always demanding something from you.
And then you've got Dwight Sanders, a genius airplane designer. He could be out there raking in fame and fortune, but he chooses to use his talents building and maintaining aircraft for the valley.
So he's taking his skills where they're actually appreciated, where they can make a real difference. I guess the question is, does that kind of individual choice actually benefit society as a whole, or is it just a form of escapism?
And that question takes us right back to John Galt. He's the one behind this whole hidden society. He's the puppet master pulling the strings, convincing these brilliant minds to join him. So, hero or villain?
I'm still not quite sure about John Galt. He just represents this extreme form of individualism that feels a little cold, a little calculating.
Yeah, he definitely pushes the boundaries of morality. But to really understand him, you got to look at the world he's reacting to. This world where the looters are rewarding mediocrity and punishing success, where being happy, individually, is seen as a threat to the greater good.
So he's kind of like a product of the system he's rebelling against.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, if society doesn't value my talent, my creativity, my ability to produce, I'll just create my own society where those things are valued.
It's a radical solution, for sure. But is it the right one? And what about everyone else? The people who are left behind? The ones who don't have the skills or the resources to escape to this, utopia? Are they just collateral damage in this whole ideological battle?
That's the big moral question at the heart of Atlas Shrugged. What are our obligations to society? Is it our duty to try and fix a broken system? Or do we have the right to pursue our own happiness, even if it means turning our backs on the problems?
I can see why this book sparks so much debate. It really makes you question those traditional ideas of morality. And it makes us think about our own beliefs, right? About individual responsibility versus the collective good.
It's not just about economics and politics, remember. Rand digs even deeper, exploring the impact of collectivism, like on a personal level, on the individual.
Okay, so how does this system affect people personally?
Well, think about the characters who are just trying to survive in that crumbling world outside the valley. They're constantly told that their own needs, their desires, are less important than the needs of the group. They're guilt-tripped into sacrificing their talents, their dreams, their whole sense of self, all for the greater good.
It's like they're being told to dim their light so others don't feel threatened by it. Doesn't that just stifle creativity and innovation?
Absolutely. That's what Rand's trying to show, how a system that values conformity and obedience over individual expression, well, it leads to stagnation and decay.
Like a slow poison eating away at people's self-worth and their belief in themselves.
And it breeds fear and resentment. People are afraid to stand out, to excel, because they know they'll get punished for it. They resent the people who do succeed because it reminds them of what they could be.
Like everyone's stuck in this cycle of mediocrity, afraid to make waves or challenge anything. Wouldn't that lead to a society where nobody takes risks, where progress just grinds to a halt?
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening in Atlas Shrugged. The looters are so obsessed with control, with enforcing their ideology, that they've created a society that can't move forward.
It's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
But is Rand saying that the only alternative is this, like radical individualism, where you're totally on your own? Isn't there a middle ground, some way to balance individual freedom with, social responsibility?
That's the question that hangs over the whole book, and it's the question each character and each reader has to answer for themselves.
I'm starting to see why this is such a controversial book. It's not just a story. It's like a philosophical challenge. It makes you examine your own beliefs about the individual's role in society.
And it's a challenge that's still relevant today. We're still dealing with these questions. The balance between individual freedom and the collective good. The role of government, the nature of success, what it means to be responsible.
You've definitely given me a lot to think about. But there's one thing that's still bugging me. If this valley of the mind represents the ideal of individual freedom and achievement, why is John Galt so secretive about it? Why not share it with everyone?
That gets to the core of Galt's philosophy. He believes that freedom can't be forced on people. It has to be chosen. He's not trying to save the world. He's trying to build a space for people who value reason and individual achievement, where they can thrive without the constraints of, a collectivist society.
So it's like a blueprint for a better future. But he's not going to force it on anyone.
Right. He's offering an alternative, a beacon of hope for the people who are ready to embrace it. The choice to join him, it's up to each individual.
That's a powerful message. But it also seems kind of risky, What if the looters find this valley? What if they try to destroy it?
That's where things get really interesting. And to understand what happens next, we need to dive deeper into what makes these characters tick. The choices they make as that whole conflict between individualism and collectivism comes to a head.
Okay, you've got me on the edge of my seat. Let's get into it. Let's see how this battle plays out. So let me get this straight. We've got the outside world falling apart, those looters hanging on to power for dear life. And then there's this secret utopia, the Valley of the Mind, where, being your best self is the whole point. It sounds like it's going to blow up any minute.
Oh, yeah. And things just keep getting worse as more people bail on the system, joining John Galt and his strike.
It's not just those industrialists anymore. It's spreading.
It is. The looters, they're their own worst enemies. Every time they try to tighten their grip on the economy, every new rule, every demand for people to sacrifice more, it just pushes more people toward Galt.
Like they're proving him right, that you can't build a lasting system on, force and take stuff from others.
Exactly. And that contrast between the world falling apart and Galt's little community thriving, it just keeps getting sharper. The looters are panicking, trying to fix a sinking ship. Meanwhile, Galt's people are doing their thing.
But they're not just going to sit back and watch everything go down in flames, right? They must be doing something to fight back.
Their biggest weapon is ideas. John Galt gives this huge speech broadcast it on the radio. It's like this takedown of the whole collectivist ideology that's brought everything to ruin.
What was he saying? What's the message?
Reason. He's laying out this philosophy built on reason, celebrating individual achievement, taking care of yourself, but like the smart way, pursuing happiness. He's telling people, don't sacrifice yourself for them. Take back your own life, your own mind.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But is anyone even listening? Is it actually making a difference for the people stuck out there?
It is. Think of it like planting a seed. Galt's words, they hit hard for the people struggling, the ones feeling trapped by the system. Even the people who don't agree with him, they can't deny the logic, the conviction.
So it's like a wake-up call, even if they're not ready to go all in on his ideas.
Yeah, and the worse things get, the more attractive those ideas look.
What about Dagny? Where does she fit into all this?
Yeah.
She's seen both sides.
Mm-hmm.
The collapsing world and Galt's utopia. What does she choose?
That's the big question. Dagny, she's torn. She's all about hard work, achievement, building something real. But she's realizing the system itself is broken.
And John Galt offers her a way out. A chance to live in a world that matches her values.
He does. But it's a tough call. She has responsibilities, people counting on her. Leaving it all behind feels like betrayal.
I can't imagine that internal struggle. It's like choosing between saving yourself or going down with the ship.
And in the end, she chooses herself. She can't keep compromising, can't support a system that's wrecking everything she believes in.
So she joins Galt.
She does, and that's a huge turning point. It sends shockwaves through the world. If Dagny Taggart, the ultimate go-getter, is willing to walk away, what does that say about their society?
It's like the beginning of the end. The whole system's going to fall apart.
And it gets worse. The looters get more desperate, trying to control fewer and fewer talented people. The final showdown, it's got to happen.
Okay, what happens? How does it all end?
I don't want to spoil everything, but let's just say Rand shows us what a world reborn could look like, where freedom and reason win.
Now I really need to read the book. It sounds like Atlas Shrugged is more than just a story. It's a warning, a call to action.
It is. It reminds us that a society that squashes creativity and punishes success, it's destined to fail.
And it shows that we all have a choice. Go along with a broken system or fight for a world that actually values what we can do, what we dream of.
Exactly. That's why this book still hits home today. It's about human nature, the fight between freedom and control, the individual versus the group. Timeless stuff.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes. I'm rethinking what success even means, what responsibility is, what kind of world I want to be a part of.
That's the power of a great book, right? It makes you question things, shakes you up, shows you new perspectives.
You've definitely done that with Atlas Shrugged, given me and our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so. If you're curious, pick up the book, explore Rand's world. You might be surprised by what you find.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Atlas Shrugged. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic, so stay tuned.